The search for a pregnant teen ended tragically after her and the father of her child were found not alive inside his car with gunshot wounds, just days after being reported missing. Now police have two people of interest. Savanah's family says the couple was found inside a locked car in a parking lot of an apartment complex, just 3 miles from where they lived on Tuesday. Police recently provided an update along with a new surveillance video showing the two people of interest. Police have said the bodies have been there for 3 or 4 days before they were found. Here her mother speaks about the horrifying scene.
I don't want to believe that she's gone. It hurts too much. She was my only daughter. And all that was going through my mind was the baby. Is the baby still alive? What was she thinking? You know, was she crying out for me?
What we're looking at right now is a very, very perplexing crime scene.
The family of 18-year-old Savanah Soto reported her missing because they were very concerned when she never showed up to the hospital where she was set to be induced for labor. At the time, police confirmed that her 22-year-old boyfriend Matthew Guerra owned the Kia Optima car that they were both found inside of. The medical examiner ruled both deaths as homicides. Her family is looking for answers, and her mother is wondering whether Savanah's relationship with her boyfriend was a factor.
As far as what happened to her, I think it has something to do with him and things that he was doing, not my daughter.
I mean, clearly, it was a heinous act. It was unspeakable, the tragedy of it. We are hoping that someone is able to identify the individuals that are seen in this video.
Police is now asking for the help of the public to find the two people in the surveillance footage, who they say could be involved in Matthew and Savanah's deaths. Police believe Savanah and Matthew were already dead when this footage was taken.
Detectives are hopeful that surveillance video will lead to the events leading up to their death.
They think the two people seen in the video here were wiping the car down to get rid of evidence and any fingerprints in that moment before ditching the car with Savanah and Matthew's bodies inside. This district attorney says that when the people responsible are captured, they could also get additional charges because of the unborn child.
Under Texas law, that qualifies an unborn child during any period of gestation is a person under the Texas Penal Code for consideration in deciding whether or not to calculate, for example, more than one person.
Savanah's brother said that the family was tipped off to the location of the car, and he arrives at the scene at the same time as police. He said Savanah was in the front seat with a baby carrier and Matthew was in the back seat, and both were shot in the same exact area of their body. They were both shot right behind the right ear. Police say that they're still looking for suspects. They're investigating it as a murder, but no motive has been released yet.
That we were going to do everything humanly possible to hold this individual or individuals accountable.
Detectives are also combing through social media and cell phone records to determine the last communications with the victims.
The day after Christmas, the San Antonio Police Department talked about this case in a press conference.
We believe that it is the missing woman and her boyfriend, but we can't confirm that right now officially until the medical examiner takes a look at the bodies and makes that determination as to their identity.
As the family members of the victims can be heard crying.
But what we're looking at right now is a very, very perplexing crime scene. And detectives right now are looking at this as a possible murder, but we don't know for sure.
But within days, police shared new devastating information.
It appeared that the vehicle had been located at that location for several days. The medical examiner had identified 22-year-old Matthew as one of the deceased victims in the vehicle, and he died from a gunshot wound to the head. The manner of that death is still pending. The second deceased victim has not yet been officially identified by the medical examiner. However, I think we can be confident that that second victim was Savanah. When we talk about the manner of death has not been determined, the manner meaning, was it a suicide or was it a murder?
Savanah was over 9 months pregnant and she was last seen at her apartment on December 22nd in Leon Valley. Her family became extremely worried when she didn't show up to her doctor's appointment and they reported her missing. In a Facebook post, Savanah's mother wrote, "I'm worried about her safety. She's with her boyfriend who is no good. Photos of Savanah on social media show her being happy at her baby shower. This photo showing Savanah and her boyfriend opening presents. They have blue decorations showing that she was about to have a baby boy. The baby boy was planned to be named Fabian. Matthew's father and stepmother talked to a local news station, saying that on Saturday, December 23rd, when no one heard from Savanah and Matthew, Matthew's father kicked in the apartment door hoping he would get some answers. Matthew's father said that they discovered Savanah's overnight baby bag for the hospital that she never took with her, which made Matthew's father immediately panic. It's been reported that Matthew Guerra was on probation for assaulting Savanah last year on Christmas. The probation was scheduled to end in June 2024, but he caught new unrelated charges which extended his probation until February 2025. Matthew's family said that they don't believe he was responsible for what happened to Savanah. There are disturbing new details in the capital murder case of the mysterious deaths of the pregnant teenager and her boyfriend. This part of the video shows a dark-colored pickup truck slowly pulling up to Matthew's silver Kia Optima. But what's shocking is that police have said that one of the people of interest was driving Matthew's car. Around 15 seconds into the video, the second person can be seen getting out of the pickup truck, walking to the door of the gray Kia Optima to talk with the first person in the driver's seat. He then went back to the pickup truck and both cars drove away. According to reports, it has been said that no weapons have been found in Matthew's car, but even his phone wasn't located in the car, which is very suspicious. Even more shockingly, his body was in the back seat while Savanah's was in the front passenger seat with a child carrier on her lap. But there is a big possibility that Matthew and Savanah were targeted.
Is this a road rage act where just some random stranger begins to fire into this vehicle and they happen to come to rest on the side of the road and the car is in park, the keys are either in the ignition or within the vehicle or nowhere to be found? All of those little issues come into play here. Or is this something where they were specifically targeted, where maybe they were stopped on the side of the road and somebody had been following them, maybe they got spooked, or were they placed there? So all of that is going to come into place. The police are going to be able to narrow this down very quickly. Are they involved with any kind of nefarious actors here? People that might work in maybe a darker world. I don't know what their background is relative to drug involvement, violence, those sorts of things, but those threats are going to be pulled upon and they're going to be explored in great detail.
But the passing of Savanah Soto isn't the first tragic death in her family. Savanah's 15-year-old brother, Ethan Soto, was killed in a shooting last year in 2022. Two teens were arrested shortly after. This begs the question if anyone was specifically targeting Savanah's family. In October, during a court case for one of the suspects of Ethan's death, a video filmed inside the courtroom showed a massive brawl break out between Savanah's family and the suspect's family. But as Savanah's family faced another tragedy, with time we will find out who is responsible. This forensic investigator with over 20 years of experience says that he has seen many crime scenes of all natures. He says that he wants the police to answer more questions.
So from the beginning, I thought that, like many people, you're kind of watching the news. I watch the news every day. And I thought that that this is going to be a murder-suicide. And of course, it turned out that apparently it's being looked at a bit more, with a bit more magnification on the situation. So right now we're still trying to understand what the dynamics were at the scene, that they're looking at all possibilities here. I think, again, you're plumbing the depths here of just absolute depravity. You're talking about killing this young pregnant woman. Who would want to do this sort of thing? And if they cannot say definitively from a scientific perspective that this young man took the life of this young woman along with this baby, then you're going to be looking elsewhere. And that's where forensics comes in. I'm very fascinated about this case because working homicides involving motor vehicles are particularly challenging, but they can give you a lot of information. And let's just say, depending upon where the victims were positioned in the vehicle, are they in the back seat? Were they in the front seat? Were they seated side by side? Were they laying on top of one another? Is there glass blown into the cabin? Did these gunshots originate from the exterior of the car? Did they only pass through the windows? Were the windows down? Did they pass through say the car body itself, where you're going through the sidewalls of the car, through the doors and this sort of thing? Did they come from the rear or the front? Was the car stopped? What position was the gear lever in the car? So you have to consider all of this. One thing that always comes to mind is DNA, right? So if you're in this very tight, confined space, and let's say that there was a perpetrator in that vehicle with them, is there any foreign DNA in that vehicle that you would not otherwise expect to find in there? Perhaps if this was targeted, did they walk up to the vehicle and put their hand on the exterior of the car as they began to fire? That's something that we have to consider as well, because that's not just DNA. That could be a latent print. So they're going down all of these avenues.
While this policeman says that the bodies were in the car for 3 or 4 days before they were found, that answer still needs more questions.
Why would the individuals in this community not have stopped to check the car out? And again, this begs another question here when it comes to assessment of biological findings and decompositional findings, because he's talking about 3 days. Is he saying that the car was there for 3 days? Or is he saying that they were deceased in the car for 3 days? Because that's a big difference. Because if you're saying deceased in the car for 3 days, that opens up the door that this may have taken place somewhere else and the car was essentially deposited there. As opposed to, you have eyewitnesses, which is going to be very important. All the residents around this area will be asked. This canvas will go on with the police department. They'll go door to door, and they might say, hey, look, we've got this car out here. You've been going back and forth to work. It's Christmas time. Maybe you've been in the house a long time. Maybe you haven't journeyed out. Did you notice the car, one of your runs into town at some point in time? Or was it there at this particular time, but wasn't there then at this other time? And that's going to play a key role in this investigation. Is there anyone out there that would have this much anger and this much hatred that they would rain down this kind of hell on this couple? And not just couple. We're talking about this young woman who is very pregnant. As a matter of fact, I think she's like a week past due. Remember, they were talking about inducing labor for her. That in and of itself rises to another level that I think many of us cannot fully appreciate.
The family and friends of Savanah Soto got together for a vigil to honor the 18-year-old and her unborn baby. Over 100 people showed up at the park. The family released balloons and doves at the vigil. But the search for answers still continues.
She is in a better place with her brother Ethan, but our lives will never be the same.
Savanah's grandma said the only thing they want now is justice.
Instead of us having this vigil right now, we should be celebrating her birth, the birth of her son. We can't do that anymore. If she suffered, don't know if she suffered. Don't know what her thoughts were. Don't know if she was yelling, if she was screaming. I don't know, and we'll never know. All I want for my granddaughter is justice.
The families separately created GoFundMe accounts to raise money for the funerals of Savanah and her unborn child, as well as Matthew. The links are in the description, so please donate if you can. At this time, police say that the case is still an active investigation. SAPD is still seeking information on the 2 people of interest.